There's a name that keeps coming up in Dodgers conversations right now, and if you've been following this team for any length of time, you know exactly why it matters. KIKE Hernandez, the utility player, the postseason hero, the guy who seems to show up when it matters most. And here's the thing. He wants to come back. The Dodgers want him back. Both sides have made it pretty clear that a reunion makes sense, but there's been one massive question mark hanging over all of this: his health, specifically that elbow injury that's been bothering him since late May of last season. Well, we finally have an update, and it's one that changes the entire timeline for when we might see KIKE back in Dodger blue. KIKE recently appeared on Adam Ottavino's podcast, Baseball and Coffee, and he opened up about the injury in a way that honestly caught a lot of people off guard. He said that when doctors went in to perform what they thought would be a simple extensor release procedure, they discovered the damage was way worse than expected. The extensor tendon was completely torn off the bone. So instead of a minor fix, he needed a full extensor repair, which is a significantly more serious surgery. And because of that, he's going to be out for the first month or two of next season. That's the reality. KIKE Hernandez is not going to be ready for opening day, and depending on how his rehab goes, he might not be back until sometime in May or even June. Now, if you're a Dodgers fan, your first reaction might be disappointment. After all, this is a guy who's been clutch in the postseason, someone who brings energy and versatility, and a player who's beloved in the clubhouse. But here's the twist. This injury timeline might actually work out perfectly for both sides. Let me explain why. First, let's talk about what happened last season. KIKE hurt that elbow in late May, and from that point on, he was never the same. His numbers took a nosedive. He finished the year hitting just over 200 with 10 home runs and 8 doubles in 92 games. His strikeouts were up, his power was down. He looked like a guy who was playing hurt, which, as we now know, he absolutely was. And yet, despite all of that, he was in the lineup for all 17 postseason games. He battled through it because that's what KIKE does. He shows up when it matters. And let's not forget some of the moments he gave us in October. That double play in Game 6 where he was playing shallow, slightly out of position because Dave Roberts told him to be there, and he read the ball off the bat perfectly, doubling up the Blue Jays with Miguel Rojas. That play was absolutely pivotal. There's a legitimate argument that without that play, the Dodgers don't win the World Series. It was one of those moments that doesn't always show up in the highlight reels, but anyone who understands baseball knows how crucial it was. So yeah, KIKE played through pain all postseason, and now we know just how bad that pain actually was. The fact that he needed a full surgical repair tells you he was basically playing on a torn tendon for months. That's not just toughness, that's borderline insane. But it's also why his numbers were so down, and it's why the injury timeline for next season might actually be a blessing in disguise. Here's the thing. The Dodgers don't need KIKE Hernandez in April. They need him in October. That's when he's most valuable. That's when his presence matters most, both on the field and in the dugout. If he's going to miss the first month or two of the season recovering from this surgery, that's actually a pretty ideal scenario. He gets the time he needs to heal properly, he doesn't rush back and risk re-injuring himself, and by the time the second half of the season rolls around, he's fresh, healthy, and ready to do what he does best. And if he's fully healthy by September and October, that's all that really matters. Plus, his absence early in the season opens up opportunities for other guys. Maybe it's Alex Freese getting more playing time. Maybe it's Dylan Rushing getting a shot in left field if the Dodgers decide to go that route. Maybe they sign someone on a short-term deal to fill the gap, or maybe they trade for another outfielder and use the early part of the season to get that guy acclimated. Whatever the case, having KIKE out for a couple months isn't the end of the world. It might actually give the Dodgers some flexibility they wouldn't have otherwise. Now let's talk about what this means for his market value and his potential contract. If KIKE had been fully healthy all season and then gone out and had another monster postseason performance, there's a real chance some other team would have thrown a multi-year deal at him. Some front office would have looked at his October heroics and said, this guy has that secret sauce, we need to get him away from the Dodgers. And they might have overpaid just to make that happen. But now, with this injury and the recovery timeline, that's way less likely. Teams are going to be more cautious. They're going to wait and see how he comes back, and that works in the Dodgers' favor. The most likely scenario now is a one-year deal, probably somewhere in the $6 to $6.5 million range, signed closer to spring training when the Dodgers can put him on the 60-day injured list and not have it count against their active roster. That gives them financial flexibility, it gives KIKE a chance to prove he's healthy,
and it sets up a potential longer-term extension down the road if everything goes well. It's a low-risk, high-reward situation for both sides. And let's be real here. KIKE Hernandez is too important to this team to just let him walk. I'm not even talking about his stats, although when healthy, he's a solid contributor. I'm talking about what he brings to the clubhouse, the dugout, the energy he provides, the leadership, the postseason experience. This is a guy who's been through the battles. He knows what it takes to win in October. He's the kind of player who younger guys look up to, who keeps the vibe right when things get tense, and who can make the big play when the game is on the line. KIKE also talked on that podcast about Yoshinobu Yamamoto, and that moment during the postseason when Yoshi said losing is not an option. KIKE talked about how that fired up the entire team, how hearing that from a guy who's won everywhere he's played, whether in Japan or the World Baseball Classic or now with the Dodgers, gave everyone chills. He said it was one of those moments where you just feel the energy shift, where you know everyone's locked in and ready to do whatever it takes. That's the kind of culture KIKE is part of, and that's the kind of culture the Dodgers need to protect. And here's the other thing. KIKE has been through so much with this organization. He's won twice with them. He's had iconic postseason moments. He's the guy who hits home runs in the playoffs, makes impossible catches, and somehow always seems to be in the right place at the right time.
Remember that catch in Game 7 that Andy Pages ended up making after colliding with KIKE? KIKE had a 96% catch probability on that ball. He was getting there. He thought for a second that he'd blown it, that the World Series was over, and then he realized Pages made the grab and he just started laughing and celebrating. That's the kind of player he is. Even when things look bad, even when the moment is at its most stressful, he stays loose, he stays confident, and he finds a way to contribute. So yeah, missing the first couple months of next season isn't ideal, but it's not a deal breaker either. If anything, it makes the situation cleaner for the Dodgers. They can bring him back on a team-friendly deal, they can manage his workload during the regular season, and they can make sure he's at his best when the games matter most. And for KIKE, he gets to retire as a Dodger, which is where he belongs. He's a franchise legend at this point. He's KIKE-tober. He's the Banana Man. He's part of the fabric of this team, and letting him walk just because of an injury that's going to heal in a couple months would be a massive mistake.